Hey guys, Sean from SGT Report here. As you know, you found my backup channel, SGT Report 2. Thank you so very much. This video interview with my good friend Rowan Croft was going to be posted on my main channel, but given my recent problems with YouTube and the strike, which fortunately they revoked after I appealed it, I'm putting this interview up on my backup channel because I can no longer afford to neglect this very important channel. So thank you so much for hitting the subscribe button, and stay tuned, because if you're getting here because of a notification, I have a new video that I posted at the main SGT Report channel that you're going to want to watch. So I'll try to link to that at the end of this interview, and vice versa. If you got here from the main channel, thank you so much for coming here just the same. You guys are actually the best audience in all of YouTube. I've heard that from so many guests, and I really believe it to be true. Thank you so very much. God bless you all. Now here's the interview as I intended to post it on my main channel. Thanks for watching. Hey friends, welcome back. Sean from SGT Report here with Rowan Croft on the line, one of Ireland's truth tellers. You'll know his YouTube channel as Gran Torino, and we've had Rowan on in the past with Daddy Dragon and others. Of course, our friend 412 Anon over there at Patriots Soapbox. We used to do a three-person roundtable. We're going to have to do that again soon, Rowan, shouldn't we? That was a lot of fun back in the day. We got to talk about Q. There's so much going on with the deep state, but first, let me welcome you. How you doing, man?
I'm good, brother Sean, and thank you very much for having me back on your channel. It's a pleasure to be here amongst your great audience, and the three-way conversations, how innocent it all was back then.
Well, you know what? I want to say a couple things here about YouTube. People get tired of me bitching and moaning about YouTube, but we're going to talk about what's going on with Gemma Doherty over there in Ireland. YouTube has taken down both of her YouTube channels, citing hate speech as the reason, but they won't tell her what the hate speech was because, as we all know, they can't. She's been picketing in front of Google headquarters in Ireland. So a shout out to Gemma. She's got a new YouTube channel I want you all to go over and subscribe to now. It's on YouTube. It's Anti-Corruption Ireland. Is that correct, Rowan? I think that's what you just told me. That's her new YouTube channel?
Yeah, that's where she's guest appearing on that station there, so she's able to continue on her live stream. So it's important to get our view count back up, and it will recapture with the Irish audience here also. So it would be a huge help for your audience to give her a boost, please.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to ask you a number of things, not the least of which is the milkshake attack that happened to you recently. But let me just say something here about YouTube. Guys, if you missed my recent video on the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11's mission to the moon and back, please go watch that interview. My special guest was Crow 777, and the name of that interview was Celebrating Apollo. I figured most of y'all could read between the lines. It really should have been called Deconstructing Apollo. But that video only got 40 or 50,000 views, and it deserves 2-3 times that many. So please go listen to that interview, Celebrating Apollo with Crow 777. And let me just say this, guys. I posted a new video on Sunday night called Let's Talk About Epstein's Other Island, which, for whatever reason, got 75,000 views in just 6 hours. So I went over to YouTube's trending news, and check this out, guys. Here's the top 3 trending news items while my video was getting 75,000 views about Epstein's other island, Great St. James. The first trending news was 5 hours ago with 6,000 views from ABC News. More protesters as Puerto Ricans demand Governor Rosello's resignation. And then skip down to the third one here from the Hindustan Times with 890 views 50 minutes ago. YouTube is such a joke at this point, Rowan. The whole world can see it, but they don't care. They're going to continue to act as the authoritarians they are. To hell with the consequences, man.
I was listening to Vox Day recently. I don't know where you are with him, but I listen to Vox and Owen regularly, just for the logos, and Michael Jones as well, and it gives me a clear path to my understanding and believing in my truth, and helping me to articulate and form things in my mind. And the way they try to suppress the narrative, or to push the narrative, regardless of the consequences. Say in the likes of the new Thor movie, where Thor is being converted to a woman now, and if the whole new paradigm has shifted and the whole new timeline to accommodate this. But as Vox would say, it's to take away the male role model of the courageous, integral male character. So it's a deconstruction, it's intersectionality, which Carl Benjamin, Sargon of Akkad, recently did. Another fantastic breakdown. And it's not cultural Marxism or this LGBT, it's intersectionality. which by its very essence divides itself, and it's starting to devour itself now over this side and here in Europe.
So Vox Day, I think, is a buddy of of Owen Benjamin's. Isn't that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, big fan of the
Yeah.
bear.
Yeah, and Owen Benjamin does a really nice job. That guy is pretty smart. I find him to be over the target. And when he calls Joe Rogan the thumb, it makes me giggle. They used to be friends, but I got to tell you, I'm so fed up with Joe Rogan at this point. I was
Yep.
just listening today. I used to be a big fan of Joe Rogan's back in the day. I was listening to him before anybody was, right from literally the beginning when he was a truth teller. And he told the truth about what he believed to be the case about the moon missions. And he told the truth about so many things. Now he's pulled back from that. Now he's very much in line with the pharmaceutical companies regarding vaccines. He's very anti-Christian. And I was just listening to his new podcast today. Actually, it's probably a few weeks old, so I pick and choose the ones I sometimes listen to. And the first 20 minutes is spent bashing Christians and the idea that this guy, some guy, rose from the dead. And he talks about a zombie. He tries to make fun of the fact. And he spent the first 20 minutes maligning Christianity. And I think it needs to be said, Rowan, that I think that's why Joe Rogan enjoys full grade A monetization across all his channels on YouTube.
Well, looking across from this side of the pond, it's clear when you make the comparison with Owen Benjamin and the sheer logos. And as you say, I find him a very just to watch his family orientation. He exposes the true essence of the family unit, you know, the mother and the role play between the two. It's fantastic. But when you see his criticisms of Joe Toe Rogan, as he's known affectionately amongst the Bears, don't forget, Bears, hit the toes up here, hit the Rogans up for Sean's videos. And yes, you're right. I've been following you 2 or 3 years, possibly more, since I started on the queue. And your rise every year, your subscription count was on a meteoric stage because you were producing logos and your content was articulate and informative, but they couldn't have that. So you can see the clear suppression on my own. And I'm not making the comparison. My demonetizations are just out the door, every one now, as I go through. And I'm only a small station. I realize that possibly a little bit bigger with a higher subscription count. You can't trust the figures. But it's the message. I keep speaking the message. I keep speaking my truth, our truth. I don't care what you do, what the proclivity of what you do behind of closed doors. Please do not teach my children where they cross the line, particularly over here in Ireland. And I want to make a big shout out, big thank you to one of my supporters who made this lovely rosary for me. It's got the colours on it.
That's cool.
I know the virtual background is coming on it, so I wanted to give them a big shout out for that because I carry this with me all the time.
That's very cool, man. And let's remind people of your YouTube channel's name. It's Grand Torino, correct? Let's get people to subscribe.
I appreciate that, Sean. Yeah, it's a conflation between the movie, the Grand Torino, but I added the Grand D at the end because it's a common colloquialism here in Ireland. Sure, everything will be grand. Life is grand. What's the crack with you? I'm grand. You? Everything is grand.
Let's go to the pub. Let's go to the pub and have a tap. And then the bottom line is so many people in Ireland still drink the Clinton Soros deep state Kool-Aid. And it's very, very sad with, Irish blood beating in my veins. It really makes me angry. I mean, because I think Irish people are strong, independent thinkers. What has happened to that country, man? But let me just back up. You said something, your truth, when you're speaking about the type of videos you make and I make, your truth, our truth. That reminds me of sort of a Democrat and what they would say. But it's not our truth. It's the truth, right? See, that's the difference. When you talk about logos and truth, there is a truth that can be told about what happened on 9/11, citing World Trade Center 7 as an example, in the BBC reporting about the collapse of that building 20 minutes early with Jane Stanley going live from New York City with the Solomon Smith brothers, World Trade Center 7, smoking behind her in the distance as she describes the collapse of that building as already having happened. The signal fades, and 15, 20 minutes later, that same building collapses at freefall speed. That's truth. And Joe Rogan has no effect on that truth as he tries to malign 9/11 discussions when he has on Eddie Bravo. So that's the difference, my friend. It's not our truth. It's the truth that we're discussing.
Precisely, Sean. Even some of the statistical facts you can see from the testimonies of the architects and engineers of 9/11 and the grand juries that's been recently opened. They can't slow it down. They can hide it, but we know the processes of discovery are ongoing. So, and pretty much like the Julian Assange, if Julian Assange A quick note to your followers as well. I believe Tommy Robson and Julian Assange are in close proximity and are communicating with each other. For whatever that effect is, it's a historical moment because two contriving, contrasting figures. Tommy recently locked up in the UK for 9 months for breaking a media ban for reporting on the grooming gangs in the United Kingdom. But because there was a media ban, he broke the law, and they essentially jailed him for 9 months. I think if he was to stay in there longer than the 40 days he was previously held for, he could possibly die in jail of starvation because he cannot trust the food in there.
Right. Yeah, I interviewed him, and the day before he was sentenced, and that's what he was worried about. That's what everybody should be worried about. And I'm sick and tired of everybody saying, oh, he's a Zionist shill. He's doing 9 months hard time in a hellhole, folks. What are you doing? The people that call him a Zionist shill, that really pisses me off because he's been obviously persecuted by the UK government, by Big Brother in the UK. And I get people after that interview saying he's a Zionist shill and I'm a shill for interviewing him while he's doing hard time. Well, the keyboard warriors are sitting doing nothing other than casting aspersions at people. I'm so sick and tired of it. And let's talk about Zionism. Here's another truth for you, my friend. As Toe Rogan continues to lambast Christians, let's talk about Christianity versus Judaism. Let's talk about Ben Shapiro. I saw an interview where Ben Shapiro says, yeah, we don't believe that Jesus Christ was the Son of God. And then he was asked, well, do you believe he was a prophet? No, not really. He's just a guy. And that is the crap that Joe Rogan spews. Meanwhile, let's just talk about the difference between Christianity and Judaism. Christianity believes Jesus Christ was the Son of God. He was a real person. This is documentable fact. He was crucified on the cross. Okay, and the Jews believe that he wasn't the Messiah, and they're still waiting for their Messiah, and they think that Messiah is coming in this lifetime. Let's hear Joe Rogan talk about that as he talks about the fantasy of religion and the mental illness of people who are religious. Dude, I'm telling you, at the end of the day, the reason you guys hear me fired up right now is because I'm sick and tired of the fascists at YouTube targeting people like Gemma and people like you, Rowan, and people like, well, all truth tellers across YouTube, because at the end of the day, truth is paramount. Truth wins. Truth is the only thing that can defeat these people. And if the witch was in the White House, we would be only bathed in lies by this government. So I think we stand a chance because Donald Trump is in the White House and he's targeting pedophiles. I don't hear Joe Rogan talk about that. I don't hear Joe Rogan talk about the arrest of Jeffrey Epstein and the pedophile rings in Washington, D.C. and around the world, Rowan.
It's the very same. We have the very same in a smaller scale here. We have a large contingent, I would presume, of elite paedophile ring networks, because you've seen recently how at ease Hillary Clinton was able to move throughout Ireland here. She actually visited some children's charities, believe it or not, the sheer gall of it. And most of your listeners would be aware. Myself and Gemma were in the area trying to see if we could catch a glimpse of her in a supposed residence just on the outskirts of Dublin, in a little known place called the Devil's Glen, believe it or not. You couldn't make this stuff up. But to go back to your Ben Shapiro point as well, Owen often talks about him and dismantles his arguments because he's a neoconservative. He calls for war. He believes in the Talmudic version of the Jewish faith. And again, it destroys. I'm trying to be kind with my words, but the way they have it, Jesus is burning in a fire of effluence. That's the way the Talmudic faith read theirs, as I come to understand it. And I can see then, once I understood his mindset, he calls for war, calls for destruction. He's a gatekeeper, pretty much now, like Jordan Patterson, as becoming more and more. It's just a gatekeeper to steer you over on the right, make your bed, all this kind of nonsense. Men were looking for that clear direction. Men are looking for stronger men to lead. That's where the alpha comes back to play. That's what the point of the Thor movie is to change the roles and deny men their role models, because they don't see them in day-to-day society. With the downgrading of the younger millennials, who, not all millennials, I've met many great, and the Gen Z coming up now with the young YouTuber, I can't remember her name for the life of me. She dismantles cultural Marxism, but yet because she's 14, she's not deemed articulate. And I agree with Owen, not to bring children into the adult conversations, allow them to express themselves, but don't attack and all that kind of stuff. But going back to the paedophile rings over here, Gemma has been on the forefront of that over here in Ireland. She used to work for the independent news media when it was operated under Tony O'Reilly, but then Dennis O'Brien took over here, one of our billionaires here. who was quite chumly with the Clintons, also the Fitzgerald owners of the hotel in New York. This was the residence that Hillary Clinton was believed to have been staying in at the time. So we've been trying to make aware of the Q, the cabal, the movements of the cabal, as much as not many people are aware of it over here. You say it correctly, Sean. A lot of people are still in the pub, they're still chasing the 9 to 5 because they can see the demographic changes that are happening here in Ireland, and it happens here in Ireland at an exponential rate. That is why we must react to it. That is why a cultural movement is beginning to form and needs to form. And I will help that grow, of men coming together and, just being family men, defending the family unit and the nation state.
Yeah, right on. Well, you're a great role model for anybody paying attention in Ireland, man. And let me just say this, you're also a pretty good drone pilot. I did see that video of you and Gemma standing outside and revealing that estate where Hillary Clinton was said to be staying while she was there. And, you said in regards to children or minors, to keep them out of the adult conversation, but let them say their piece. And I think that's, at the end of the day, what's really got my dander up about Joe Rogan is the fact that now so many young people, so many teenagers are listening to him as he disparages Christianity, as he disparages people who question vaccines, as he disparages people who question the official story of 9/11, as he disparages those who question the NASA version of what happened with the Apollo missions. He disparages everything outside of the establishment media as young people who respect him take all of this in. So they're being indoctrinated to not question any of the things, any of the truth, Building 7, that so many of us woke up from because we questioned it and looked into it. And so let me ask you this. In regards to your persecution and Gemma's persecution in Ireland, what is the reason for it? Is it because you stand for the borders of your nation? Is it because you don't want to be ruled by bureaucrats in Brussels? Is it because you don't want to be flooded by unlimited immigration with people from maybe different races, creeds, or religions that don't want to assimilate with your culture? Is that why you're being demonized?
Simple answer, yes. And I will extrapolate on that too. But in essence, everything you said there is correct. And as a nationalist, I welcome all peoples to my country, but I want my culture to be reinforced. And if people are to come en masse, then I can only see it as an invasion. I can only describe it as an invasion.
Then let me ask you this. You described something, I think you said, did you say transsectionalism earlier as it relates to the sexes?
Intersectionality.
Intersectionality. Well, that's what's happening with cultures now. If you don't accept intersectionality with your culture, then you're a bigot, then you're a racist, then you're a nationalist, the N-word. What's wrong with wanting to have a nation? Now, people across the world are waking up. Look at Brexit. Look at Macron. He can't keep these people under control. They're protesting against him, a Rothschild banker. People in this country, the support Trump has, because he uses the N-word, nationalism. Rowan, what in the world is wrong with nationalism? I can tell you this, it'll get you put on a YouTube, Google hit list. If you want to get monetized, don't use the N-word, nationalism.
100%. And a quick aside, because it strikes me on regards to Joe Rogan. I gave up on Joe Rogan a long time ago, and when I switched over to Owen Benjamin and E. Michael Jones, and I'm not lauding them stuff, but as a concept for young men to follow logos, mental strength, spiritual strength, physical strength. These are the three core tenets. The trinity of the divine strikes again, even in logos. Get yourself over there and get yourself switched on.
Well, let me just say one thing. It did pop into my head here as you said that, which podcast that was. I called it his most recent one. It wasn't. I pick and choose sometimes if I'm going to listen to him. And he had on Duncan Trussell. So if you want to hear him bash Christianity and laugh at Christians for the first 20 minutes, listen to the podcast, the recent podcast between Joe Rogan and Duncan Trussell. Okay, let me ask you this. You were recently the victim of one of these milkshake attacks, but that's just half the story. The other half of the story is the authorities, well, at least you, know exactly who it was, and she actually is a person in some considerable, some pedigree, isn't she?
I'll try and give you your viewers a quick synopsis. I know my accent is very strong, so do buffer me a little bit, but the concise version is she represents a branch of Hope Not Hate funded by Open Society, the usual suspects.
George Soros.
Soros. Also state-assisted, stated funding. But my attacker, who I was live streaming, who attacked me mid-live stream, Now I'm getting the usual distraction. Oh, it's a milkshake. Go up. What about it? No, it's a precedent. You don't understand it. You're doing word wizardry. It's the precedent. We recently had a young teenager had battery acid thrown in his face, and the law has been very slow to move on that. But we here now had someone directly throw a toxic substance because what was in as she said publicly on her social media presence, it was a concoction of curry powder, Coca-Cola, coffee, and whatever spit and vomit she could put into it at the same time. But the curry powder and the Coca-Cola, two constituents that were meant with intent, thrown into my face, as is seen in my live stream, which caught it live, was intense. So 2 weeks later now, the police force, and I'm hesitant to talk about it because I believe that a letter has been issued to some of the things, so I don't want to jeopardize any criminal action that should be pending.
Sure.
Because I want to give our police services every opportunity to act.
Benefit of the doubt. Give them the benefit of the doubt that something will actually happen. But she hasn't been arrested and nothing's happened so far, correct?
Correct. She still walks the streets. She's actually recently doxed 20 other followers on Facebook publicly, and children. To give you another quick background, she's an ex-minister's daughter here in Ireland. Her father was Sean Doherty, the ex-Justice Minister of Ireland, who resigned in complete disgrace because he was phone tapping two journalists. He was Charles Haughey's Minister for Justice at the time, back in the early 80s, I believe. So he has form. So she didn't lick it off a stone. So she has a certain level of notoriety in her area, and seems to be optically a sense of protection because she seems to be able to walk around unprotruded. She's actually brought out by our mainstream media or radio, television, or redundant. I can't remember the vernacular I would use to him. But she's the face of the NGO here, racism, United Against Racism. So she's actually, works for an NGO. It's all the characters coming down. But I want to pursue it. I've been derided for, man up, it's a milkshake. What the hell's wrong with you? No, the effort of law, because if this precedent goes unprosecuted, it sets the precedent then for the next thing. And then it elevates to where we go. We look at ourselves. Ireland is rapidly becoming, is pretty much as the UK next door. And the reason we bang, myself and Gemma and other great YouTubers over here, beat the drums is because we don't have to allow this to happen. We welcome refugees. We want to help people of the world, but not at a cost, not at our own cost. We don't want to become the hole in the donut and lose the essence of Ireland. So I appeal to Irish diaspora, of course, that are watching your great show, Sean. Please get more involved. If you've left and emigrated, please look back to Ireland. Please support the YouTube channels. If you're eligible to vote while living in the United States, please use your vote. We need that because we don't trust the ballot box. I certainly do not trust the ballot box because Soros has his fingers in there too.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned the NGO United Against Racism. That's an organization she's part of?
Yeah, and it comes under the umbrella branch of ENAR, ENAR. So look to them.
Okay, see, here's the problem. United Against Racism, as it pertains to Democrats and liberals and Marxists, just means they're united against you, white guy who stands for your nation. They're not united against any Muslim racism. They're not united against any racism from any other color, creed, or religion. They're united against you for standing up for your nation, and for doing so, you're called a racist. And that's the problem, man. And as it pertains to these milkshakes, Antifa, who brutally attacked journalist Andy Ngo, it said that those quote-unquote milkshakes, some of them they were throwing that day, contained quickset cement. So these aren't just milkshakes. This isn't an innocent little strawberry shake from McDonald's. These are weapons. And can you imagine for even 1 second, Rowan, if people on the side of Donald Trump, people in the libertarian movement, people in the MAGA movement were walking around throwing quote-unquote milkshakes at liberals all day long? Can you imagine? Can you imagine how we'd be hung out to dry by the mainstream Mockingbird media?
Absolutely, time and time again. And I meant to say that lady in question as well, she also has clear Antifa ties, so the two are firmly embedded together. And I'm emboldened to see a bill being brought forward in Congress to label Antifa a domestic terrorist organization. So that would only help to benefit over here as well. Because I was recently targeted along with David Kadri, who is youth wing coordinator of the Liga youth movement. I was recently visiting in Italy, where I made some great connections. And we were both targeted and, in essence, painted by Hope Not Hate, the article itself, Your viewers can go and Google that and find out. Oh, don't Google it, DuckDuckGo it.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, before we part ways here, bring us up to speed on the current state of politics in Ireland. Now, we know that Gemma Doherty ran most recently, and I think she got around 10,000 votes. I've interviewed Gemma. Who is on your radar as a politician that stands for the actual people and for the country? Somebody we need to be aware of, somebody that people with Irish roots can get behind. Tell us how to support you. Tell us how to support the freedom movement in Ireland, because the alternative to standing for the freedom movement in Ireland is to stand with George Soros and the bureaucrats in Brussels and endless chains and the boot stomping on a human face in perpetuity, the New World Order.
I would say it like this: we don't have our Salvini, we don't have our Donald Trump, we don't have our strength of characters just yet. He is there, she is there, whoever that may be. There are strong contenders, and this is my personal perspective. Those that know me, those that are walk in the same circles as me. This is just my perspective, not what I see the state of play is. When we get our strong politicians, we have no strong politicians. Both are Democrats and Republicans, as they would be ascribed to your American audience, are two sides of the same coin. There is no opposition from Fianna Fáil. Fine Gael are pushing through with Brussels' agenda, timefold. They've introduced the 0 to 4 sexual intimacy for 4-year-olds here. So they are full on cultural Marxism, bringing the LGBT agenda into the curriculum. So we have no politicians over here, no credible oppositional party, I would say, but we have a movement. It is minute, but it needs the Irish diaspora. It needs the great patriots that are in Congress, the great Irishmen that have served throughout the United States and built that great nation with yourselves, along with yourselves, and many other great cultures as well, that becomes the supreme melting pot that is the United States, because you are American first. That's all that matters, not the color of your skin, the content of your heart, but that you are American first. And I need that. You are Irish first.
Well, you and I share common roots with another American patriot whose name was JFK, John F. Kennedy. The New World Order blew his head off. So I think JFK, God rest his soul, is probably turning in his grave as he looks at what the Democrat Party today has become. Agree or disagree?
I agree. And I'll be kind to JFK, Big Bears, you know what I mean. Yeah, the Democrat Party, once the walkaway movement has formed and it caught fire, you could see people's realization of how the Democrats were projecting that they were the party that brought the KKK. They did Jim Crow. They were responsible for so much slavery and so much crimes of the past, but they don't control the narrative, and they purposely target stations, big, tremendous stations like yours, small little conservative channels here in this small island, but they try to suppress, but they can't stop the truth. The dam is breaking with the Epstein case, and all of that will unfold. We just have to be ready to explain the truth and what's been going on in all our countries by the New World Order.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping with the Epstein we'll begin. Sorry, Sean.
Yeah, sorry, you froze up there for a minute. You're saying you're hoping it all comes out with the Epstein case.
And I'm hoping that it all, with the arrest of Epstein and the failure to get bail, that's a clear sign that, you know, the whistleblowers, the jury, the conviction cases will come forward, and the amount of evidence on discovery that will start to tag the cabal, that will bring into question. And I also want my Irish viewers, if you're watching here as well, be aware of Tom Fitton and Judicial Watch, and to see exactly what's coming and what's going ahead, the great work that they do there, and the great work that I believe all the anons throughout the world that we have over Patriot Soapbox. You know, we desperately want to see this storm now. The storm has to happen now, because we need it throughout the world to wake everybody else up, to reveal the wizard behind the curtain.
Yeah, well, let's just say this. I was going to let you go, but let's just flesh this out a little bit further as it pertains to Epstein and Pedophile Island, Little St. James, and his other island, Great St. James, which not too many people knew about, but now that's starting to come out, and his connections to intelligence agencies, and his connections to Maxwell.
Robert Maxwell.
Yeah, Maxwell and the daughter there, who was his child procurer of children. And now we see at the Vatican that missing girl's bones being found in some catacomb below the Vatican. It's all coming out. It's all coming out. This is a horror show that the average person was previously unprepared for. But because so much has been trickling out, once we get to the real horror stories, and the real satanic ritual abuse of children that has been going on in these circles for millennia. That can all start coming out and people will be able to digest it. Whereas 10 years ago, Rowan, I don't think it would have been as digestible by the average person.
Those that know cannot sleep. That's the old adage that we've had. So I've had to curtail my speech to try and leave breadcrumbs to try and make ready what's needed when the information drops and the people need to come to understanding and the true horror is revealed. Initially, that was the cause of my station to start up in the defense of children, in my first video being against female genital mutilation. And circumcision on both sides I'm thoroughly against, but that's another conversation. We need to channels like yourself they will teach people to come to understand what the true horrors are that's coming out of the Epstein, that these pedophiles throughout the world, they're here. They're in every country, of course. We've got the Jimmy Saviles, we've got the royalty, we've got Prince Andrew now being called into question yet again. They can't cover it up. The Vatican is another story, is another world. And though, like I say, I can only say those that know cannot sleep. Look at the bags under my eyes. I'm just fighting for the children. That's what we're all doing.
Yeah. All right, brother. Well, where we go one, we go all. That's not really trite, guys. It's actually true, because if we all stand together, we're extremely strong. And that's what the New World Order and the deep state fears, is a awakened public who knows who the real enemy is. And if there's anything that Donald Trump has done in my book that's maybe he gets the highest marks for, it's pointing at the mainstream mockingbird horror media and saying they are the enemy of the people. Because if you watch CNN for any length of time, any day of the week, you're going to get deep state talking points, which then shows them as being the enemy of the people. Rowan, how do we support you? I know you've got the Gran Torino YouTube channel. I'll link that below. People, please click on that link and subscribe. Do you have a Patreon or any other way we can support you?
Thank you for sharing that. I actually have a website now, and because my first GoFundMe was restricted, so I've not going through any other payment processes other than the one that I trust here, which is on my website, World Wide Web, grantorino.ie. There's monthly donations or one-off payment donations. I encourage you all to help elevate the platform, to keep us going, because we will be suppressed and we need alternative media voices and a media presence here. There are other great YouTube stations starting up, but there are also controlled oppositions beginning to set up that have a much fancier, slicker sort of appeal because they've got instant cash, but we know who the editors are and we know what institutions they're coming for. They're a controlled opposition already forming. So please, I importune, I beseech, World Wide Web, grantorino.ie. Please do help elevate the channel, and also encourage you to watch Anti-Corruption Ireland, Gemma O'Doherty's website there too, and catch up on the latest comings and goings with Gemma herself.
Yeah, absolutely. Do me a favor and spell that. It's Grand, G-R-A-N-D, and then Torino. Is that T-O-R-I-N-O?
Correct.
.ie. So guys, it's grandtorino.ie. And Rowan is one of the premier truth tellers in the freedom movement in Ireland, so he could really use your support. Rowan, thanks so much, buddy. I appreciate your time.
Sean, thank you for your kind words and a big us to your audience.
Amen, brother. All right. And guys, we really appreciate your support. A special, very special shout out to my less than a fraction of 1% of, the folks that watch my channel. Thank you so much to my patrons. You're truly, 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 truly making a big difference for us and keeping us in the fight. I mean, I spent the day and a half, almost 2 full days, researching, writing, and editing my video about Great St. James, and I wouldn't have been able to do that. Well, I would have done it anyway. I mean, most of us are, we do it anyway, don't we, Rowan? That's the punchline. They pay Anderson Cooper $12 million a year to lie. Meanwhile, the rest of us are doing honest work, trying to tell the truth, and YouTube goes out of their way to demonetize us because they want to put us out of business. They want to put us out of commission. They don't want us to be able to compete. They won't give us a level playing field, and it's because we're winning the battle for hearts and minds, because we're telling the truth.
100% correct, Sean. It was Logos.
All right, man. Thank you so much for your time. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Sean. Take care.
Take care. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in. As I always say, for real news, the antidote to corporate propaganda and mockingbird mainstream horror media lies, you can catch us 24/7 at sgtreport.com. Also check out thelibertymill.com. I think you'll really like that one. It's basically the Drudge Report of alt media truth websites. Thanks for listening, guys. God bless. Bye-bye. And he provided this screenshot. Potential policy violation. The following keywords violate Google Ads advertising policies. Please remove the unacceptable content to continue. The unacceptable content as keyword, Christian.